14 verse 13. You want to read that for me?
And I heard a voice from heaven saying, Write, blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on. Yes, says the Spirit, that they may rest from their labors, for their deeds follow with them.
All right, let's go back and look at this Greek a little bit. And I heard, that word acoustics comes from this word. I heard a voice, or a sound actually, a sound out of the heaven, saying, you write down that word grapho. See that word gropson there? Comes from grapho. We get our word in English, graph from that word. And then makarioi, happy ones. All right, or blessed ones. Happy ones, blessed ones. The ones dead. The ones dying in the Lord. The ones that are dead and the ones dying in the Lord from now on. All right. Now this is evidently the tribulation saints. Those that are saved during the tribulation. Those that are saved during that period of time. And yes, nay, we, you say yea or nay in English, but nay in Greek is yes. Did you know that? All right, nay, that means yes, yes. All right. And the Spirit, the pneuma, in order that they shall rest from the, what's that word there in Brother Mike? What was that word there? Rest from their what?
Labors.
All right, the word labors is not really accurate. It means from their beatings.
Beatings.
Beatings. All right? How many of you ever had judo or something? You get a judo chop. This word means chop and the beat. That's what that word. They rest from their beatings. Okay? Resting from their beatings. All right, 1 Corinthians 15:58. Yes.
What does it mean then, and their works follow them?
Okay, and their labors.
Their beatings?
Yeah, their labors. Their works. Yeah, their works. Okay, their works follow them. Whatever they've done. Works there, ergo, we get a word ergonomics from that. It means they're the products of their labors, okay? Now, they're going to rest from their beatings. Okay? What happened to them during the tribulation period, to these saints? Today, we can go to church. But during the tribulation period, people are going to be able to do that openly? It's going to be like the Dark Ages again. The Dark Ages. Can you imagine Baptists in the Dark Ages, what they must have thought they were in the tribulation period? Just think about it. A lot of the things that were happening to them back then. How many of you took church history with me? How many did that? Anybody doing church history? Mike, you had it? Well, several of you took church history with me. It was some terrible things that happened for about 500-600 years. Heavy-duty beatings and burnings. All right? Well, they're going to be decapitated publicly. There's going to be public executions, and it's going to be televised all over the world. From what we see with this, they're going to see them all over the world. This word kopto here, kopon, that means the beatings of them. 1 Corinthians 15:58. Somebody go there, 1 Corinthians 15:58. Here we have the word again. Let's look at it and translate it a little bit better, a little sharper maybe. 1 Corinthians 15:58. Are you over there, Brother Rex? What kind of translation do you have? Is that the King's? Is that the Episcopalian? What is it?
Therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your labor is not in vain in the Lord.
All right. Now that back then, some of them were getting beat up. Their beatings were not in vain. Your beatings are not in vain. Did the Apostle Paul ever get beat?
That means beatings there.
Beatings.
I got 12 in your
All right. Beatings. That's it. I think. Now it means to either labor so hard that your body is stressed out. Okay. I mean your body is just wore out. It is under extreme stress. Now, back in the oil patch, when I worked in the oil patch a long time ago, I'm going to tell you what, you went home beat up every day, if you went home alive. It was rough. back in those days. Back on the farms, the days, the old hot sun, out in those fields dragging those potato sacks. You ever do that, Brother Ray? Yeah.
Very
Out in the
well.
cotton sacks. Every day you got beat up by the weather and whatever. Okay? Hard labor. But you were beat up by it. It means literally to be beat up either by labor or by physical abuse. And I think that it's talking about the physical abuse. Knowing the history of what was happening here. Okay? The beatings. So your beatings are not in vain over there in 1 Corinthians 15:58 either, was it? Your beatings were not in vain. Okay. Now Revelation 20 and verse 6 and 7, 22:17, 6 and 11, 1 Corinthians 15 and 18 and 58, and 1 Thessalonians 4:16, Hebrews 4 and 9, and 1 Timothy 5:25 are cross references to this verse. Okay? Now let's look a little bit further now. A little bit further. Brother Randall, are you over there? Or no, where are we? 14:14. Revelation 14:14. Are you there, Rex? Revelation 14:14? He's not there either. How about you, Brother David?
I'm too far over.
Huh?
I'm too far the other way.
Oh, okay.
14 what? 14?
14 and verse 14.
I think I'll get that.
14 and 14.
I got it, Jim.
Okay.
And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and on the cloud sat one like the Son of Man, having on his head a gold crown, and in his hand a sharp stick or struck. I don't know that word.
Sickle.
Sickle.
Yeah.
And another angel came out of the temple crying.
Okay, we don't want to go that far yet. Okay, just for number 14. All right. And behold. All right, that word behold. Now, horao, that's what that word comes from. That means to see with the mind's eye. That means to see as a picture. How many of you can visualize something? I remember before I lost my brain, it went away with those strokes and stuff somewhat. I used to have one before that. And I could, many pages that I've seen, I've quoted to you, you know what page to look up some word on, whatever. I would see a word and I could see the page it was on in the lexicon. I could just see that. Ace, page 119, N, page 123. Just a lot of this, you know, a lot of those, I could see that. One time I'd read books of illustrations and I could think of all my illustrations. But then when it went away, it just went away. Now I have to deal with things and work real hard to teach the same. Now I have to study real hard to teach. All right?
So
I see to see with the mind's eye. It means to see like on a picture screen, okay, or on the stage. Brother John.
So you didn't actually see that.
He said, I saw.
Yeah.
All right, and I saw, and you behold, Nephile, a cloud. Okay, a cloud. Leuke. What's leuke? Do we have any word in English that comes from that Greek word? Leukemia. Leukemia. The white blood cells in your blood. That leukemia. Okay? Leukemia. White cloud, and upon the Nephile, upon the cloud one setting, it says homoion, like huios. What does the word huios mean in Greek? Do you remember that word?
Air.
Air. That's right. Air. This is air. Heir by right of the firstborn. Okay? Now, when in Genesis 3:15 in the Old Testament, in the book of Genesis, we have the prophecy of what? The seed of the woman. Who is the seed of the woman? The Messiah. The Messiah that is to come. We have that Messiah, the seed of the woman. The book of Enoch calls him the seed of woman, or the son of woman, not the son of man. That's what unusual. When the Jews, when they talk about Jewish lineage and everything, what did they trace their lineage through? Basically the woman. Very important. What?
Is it Abraham?
Well, through the woman. All right? Through the woman. Now this heir here, Jesus was the son of woman, wasn't he? He's also called the son of mankind, the son of man. But he is the heir. more than that, he is the heir. He is God's only son, John 1:14, Kai logos sarx agenitou, and the Word flesh he became. All right? Jehovah became flesh, and it says he dwelt among us. He pitched his tent among us, just like that tabernacle there. God wanted to be what? With his people, among his people. And he did that in reality in the person of Jesus Christ, okay? God became flesh and dwelt among us for a purpose. The purpose was to redeem us, to buy us back. All right? The one sitting like the heir of man, having upon the head the kaphale of him, a Stephanos. We got an English word from that. Stephanos. What word do you think in English do we get from that? Stephen. Stephen. Stephen means prince or crown prince. All right? Stephen. And this is beautiful. Now we have the heir over here, and then the Stephanos. We have Stephanos in Greek, and we have diadem, or diademos. All right? Diadem is something that is won by, or awarded to someone that has won a title by conquest. Stephanos is a crown that you get by heirship, because you're the heir. Okay? All right. And it's golden. Golden in the Bible stands for what? What? Well, deity. Deity. All right? Divinity. Now, he's got a crown awarded to him. It's made out of gold, typifying his deity. Everything in that tabernacle, or everything that was gold in there, typified what? That it was God. Everything in there that was wood typified what?
Humanity.
Humanity. All right. Thank you. He was God and man. Okay? A crown, and in the hand of him a sickle. A sharp sickle. All right? A sharp sickle. 14 and verse 15, Brother John.
Question, the New American Standard says one like a son of man, small s.
Uh-huh.
The King James says the son of man, capital S.
Uh-huh.
Seems to be a difficulty in theology there.
Well, not so much theology. It leaves out the definite article in Greek,
Really?
but there is no indefinite article in Greek, so we don't have any problem with that. It's one like the son, the heir of mankind. The heir or the son of man. All right?
We know who is referring
We know who
to.
it's referring to. And when we know who it's referring to, you can put a definite article in there and not do it any violence at all. And the definite article would be tone. Tau omicron nu. Okay?
Okay.
Tone. But it's just left out in there, but it's there as far as the idea is concerned. All right? Accusative singular masculine. 14 and verse 15. Now, are you there, Brother John?
And another angel came out of the temple, crying out with a loud voice to him who sat on the cloud, put in your sickle and reap, because the hour to reap has come, because the harvest of the earth is ripe.
All right, let's go back and look at this again. Another angel, almost another angel comes here. Here we have another one of these angels. If the harvest time has come now, out there tomorrow morning, I've got to go get grain because it's harvest time. The wheat is ripe, and I've got to go get a truckload of wheat out there tomorrow. It's dry, okay? It's dry. And another angel, angelos. What is that word angel, by the way? What is the name angel? What we get the word angel right out of Greek.
Messenger, isn't it?
Yeah, messenger. All right, messenger. He went out from the naos. What is the naos? Kadesh HaKadashim in Hebrew, isn't it?
Holy, holy.
The Holy of Holies. Where is that? Where is he coming out of? He's coming out of heaven itself, right out of the throne room, okay? That's where he's coming from, the naos. All right? And I wanted to say this to you. Where did Judas throw the money when he was so depressed after he saw that he had betrayed the Son of God? What did he do? Where did he go? He went into the Holy of Holies and threw the money in there. Now, right there was a death sentence for him, period. I mean, he was going to die. They would have executed him for going in the Holy of Holies. As far as we know, Jesus never walked into the Holy of Holies. That was where the high priest could only go once a year, okay? But he went into the Holy of Holies, the Naos, and threw the money there, okay?
Did he do that because he wanted to die?
I don't know all about that. I know that he was tore up and very upset over a lot of things. Suicidal, all right? And another angel, he went out from the Holy of Holies, or the holy place, crying. And that word crying there, it means crying out in a sound or in a voice great, megalay. When you megasize something, that's big, isn't it? All right? In a voice great, to the one sitting upon the cloud, you send the sickle of you, and you reap, because it came the hour to reap, because it dried out. Okay, it dried out. You know, they were supposed to harvest this wheat out there 3 or 4 days ago, but what happened? Rain. So they couldn't harvest the wheat. Rain. It dried out the harvest, the three-smos of the earth. All right. The seed of mankind becomes so corrupt during times in history that God has to bring judgment. Here again, in this period of time here, man is such a fool that sometimes his mouth calls for blows. That's something I wrote a long time ago. Man's mouth calls for blows. Remember, we were studying this morning in the book of, in the last part of Deuteronomy. And Israel had had a lot of penal judgments, hadn't they? God brought judgments of some sort of infliction upon them, death, all kinds of things. And one more time, right after they saw God basically kill Aaron and take his clothes off and put them on his son Eleazar, right after that, what did they do? Start whining and bawling and their mouth calling for blows again. So what did God send among them? What kind of a judgment? Snakes. Nahash. All right. He sent snakes among them. It said fiery serpents. Fiery serpents. Fiery serpents among them. And of course, God had an antidote for that. He had Moses take a serpent, or take brass and pound it in and make a serpent of brass and put it on a pole. And if they looked up to that, then they were cured from their snake bites. Okay, didn't take snakes away, but there was a cure for it. Okay. Joel 3:13 and Mark 4:29, Jeremiah 51:33, and Matthew 13:39 through 41. We talk about the tares and the wheat there. God is going to harvest. He's going to harvest. By the way, what do tares look like?
Wheat.
Huh?
Wheat, aren't they?
What are tares?
The thorn?
It was called false wheat. That's what tares were called, false wheat. Tares look just like wheat. They have little ears or little clumps on top of them, except there's no seeds in it, basically. No grain. It's false wheat is what it is. It's a imitation wheat. Okay? Imitation wheat. That's what the tares were. 14 and verse 16 now. 14 and verse 16. Bill, do you have your Bible open? What translation do you have?
New American.
Okay. You want to read that? You mind reading for me there?
No. And he who sat on the cloud swung his sickle over the earth, and the earth was reaped.
All right. The one thrust the one standing upon the cloud, he thrust his sickle of him upon the earth, and it was reaped. It was harvested, the earth. The earth was harvested. Okay. The earth was harvested. Here we see God taking people out of this earth and separating the wheat from the tares, basically. In verse 14 and verse 17 now. 14 and verse 17. Brother John, are you back over there?
And another angel came out of the temple which is in heaven, and he also had a sharp sickle.
All right, another angel. He went out of the shrine, the holy place, the Holy of Holies, the throne room of heaven, having also with him another sharp sickle. All right? And verse 18. Let's clip along here a little bit. Brother Randall, are you over there?
Then another angel, the one who has power over fire, came out from the altar, and he called with a loud voice to him who had the sharp sickle, saying, Put in your sharp sickle and gather the clusters from the vine of the earth, because her grapes are ripe.
In history, as you go back and look on the map up here that we have, you look back in history, every time there was a failure, there was judgment, wasn't there? Failure and judgment, all the way through history. Every one of these periods of time that God has dealt with man, there was failure and judgment. All right? And there's a word in Greek, orge. That means, it means wrath. But the idea of that word wrath there is like fruit swelling upon a tree until it just gets so ripe it just busts. If you leave watermelons out in the field and give them a lot of water, what happens to them? They'll just finally crack and bust open. All right? That's the kind of, that word wrath there, and this is the wrath of God. The wrath of God. All right? And another angel out of the sacrificial altar, the one having authority over fire, he spoke in a voice great to the one having the sickle, the sharp sickle, saying, You send the sickle, the sharp, and you gather the clusters of Botryos of the vine of the earth, because ripened they are, the grapes of it. All right? The grapes are ripened. Now, we're going to get into the Battle of Armageddon here real soon. We're going to see this last great battle, and we're leading up to that. And we're going to find that this battlefield isn't actually here yet, is it? Hasn't been created, has it? The battlefield? It's not really created yet. That battlefield is going to be created. How long is that battlefield? How long is it supposed to be? Huh? Remember mine?
Let's take a while. 40 miles, I have no idea.
No.
6 miles.
Goes from
40 miles.
Bozrah to Edom. Petra.
Was it 100 miles?
But no, that's getting closer to it. It's a lot better. That's better than 40.
1,600 furlong.
How about 200 miles? About 200 miles long. Okay? And that battlefield's going to be created here pretty soon. All right? And,
Like
yes,
in Petra,
Petra.
when they go there, like that's actually just a carved out stone, right?
It's a city that was like New York City one time. It's been basically abandoned. As a matter of fact, the archaeologists used to say that the Bible was one of the reasons why the Bible was wrong is because the places that it talked about didn't exist. And Petra, if it was really as big as Edom, as big as what the Bible says, what happened to it? What happened to Edom? What happened to Petra? God judged it. And the trade routes went around, and it just dried up and went away. And that's what happened. And that city is sitting there waiting, many scholars think, for Israel to run down there and God will protect them there. Okay? When the Antichrist steps in the middle of this tribulation period, the Antichrist is going to stand in the temple of God there in Jerusalem and say that he is God. And he said, when they see that happen, get out of here. Go by the highway of the road, or the housetops. The highway of the housetops is what it's called. If you're up on the housetop, cooling yourself in the evening, don't even go downstairs. Jump on the next roof and get out of here. Don't even go down. Don't go down and get anything. Leave when you see that happen. That happens when you're on the housetop. Get out of here. Don't even go in the house. Just take off and run. Don't go home. Get out. All right? Get out. Verse number 19 now. Verse number 19. Bill, you over there?
Yeah. And the angel swung the sickle to the earth, and gathered the clusters from the vine of the earth, and threw them into the great winepress of the wrath of God.
The great winepress of the themo of God. We get a word in English from that word themo, don't we? What would that be? Thermos? What's thermos do?
keeps hot.
It keeps hot things hot, doesn't it? All right, that was the whole idea of the thermos, was to keep it hot. Okay? Keep it hot. He thrust his sickle into the earth, and the wine, or the vine of the earth. The word for wine in Greek is oinos, okay? And the word for fruit of the vine is genomatos teson plou. Fruit of the vine. And here we have the vine, all right? The vine, the fruit of the vine. We have grape juice here is what it's talking about, the wine press. Grape juice. Now, how many of you had any grape juice today? Anybody have grape juice? If you get that on your hands, if it's like dark grape juice or whatever, how many of you gone out there and picked the grapes?
Stained.
And your hands are stained. Okay? We're going to get into that in just a little bit. All right, 14 and verse 20 now. 14 and verse 20. Are you there, Mary? You want to read that for me?
Yeah, okay. They were trampled in the winepress outside of the city, and blood flowed out of the press, rising as high as the horses' bridles for a distance of 16,000 stadia.
Stradio.
Okay.
Stradio. All right. What that is 200 miles. Okay? Basically 200 miles. That's a pretty good sized battlefield, isn't it?
Mhm.
Pretty good sized battlefield. The battlefield actually doesn't exist yet. We see this. Now let's go back to Ezekiel 38, verses 9 and 10, Isaiah 63 and verse 1, Zechariah 14, 2 through 6, and then 12 through 15 are some of the cross references. Let's go back here and look at it just a little bit in the Old Testament. Anyone, any of those places? You over there anywhere? Vice Mike? Which one you
Ezekiel
got?
38.
Ezekiel 38. All right, Ezekiel 38 and verse 9 and 10.
And you will go up, you will come like a storm. You will be like a cloud covering the land, you and all your troops, and many peoples with you. Thus says the Lord God, it will come about on that day that thoughts will come into your mind, and you will devise an evil plan.
All right. This is going to happen. It said it was trodden down, the winepress, outside of the city. This is outside of the city of Jerusalem. And he went out blood, Haima. All right. Out of the winepress up until the bridle, the horses bit. How tall is the horses basically back then? About this tall, aren't they? Something like that. About 15 hands, somewhere around there. Most of the horses back then were 15 and a half hands. Hand is about 4 inches, so 15 times that. And a horse's mouth is where? Just about that high. Just about that high. So how tall is that?
4 feet.
Nearly 4 feet. Somewhere between 3 and 4 feet. That's how deep the blood is going to be running in places in this valley. 3 to 4 feet deep of blood. That's a bloody place, isn't it? A bloody, bloody battlefield. Okay, a bloody battlefield. The word horses there, hippon. Hippon. We get a word hippopotamus out of that word. That means water horse. Okay? The horses. All right? This battlefield's 200 miles long. Now we looked at Ezekiel 38. And how about Zechariah 14? Who's got Zechariah 14? Are you over there, Randall? Or anyone over there in Zechariah? John?
I got Isaiah 63:3.
Okay, well, let's go to Isaiah then. 63:1.
3.
63 number 1 and through 3. You want to go through there?
Okay. Who is this who comes up from Edom with garments of glowing colors from Boraz?
Bozrah.
This one who is majestic in his apparel, marching in the greatness of his strength. It is I who speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Why is your apparel red and your garments like the one who treads in the winepress? I have trodden the wine prow alone, and from the peoples there was no man with me. I also trod them in my anger and trampled them in my wrath, and their blood and their life blood is sprinkled on my garments, and I stained all my raiment.
All right, that's a bloody scene, isn't it? A real bloody scene. Now, this how long is this battle going to be? battlefield going to be from, Brother John? From Edom
From
to
somewhere to
to
Edom.
Bozrah.
Bozrah, okay.
Bozrah to Edom. All right? And if you look on the map, you'll find out that's about 200 miles. That's where the battlefield's going to be. Okay?
It's
That's
gonna
where
be
this-
bloody that whole 200.
Well, I don't know whether it's going to be bloody that whole way, but there's going to be places in that valley that blood runs 4 feet deep, basically. 4 feet deep. That's a bloody battlefield. We find that there's going to be hundreds of millions of people there. We've got nations right now shaking their fist at other nations all over the world, don't we? All the nations are lined up exactly like they're supposed to do. We have Korea shaking their fists at the world. We have China shaking their fists at the world. We have Russia shaking their fists at the world. We have all of the Muslim nations which come out of Africa, a lot of them, and
Middle East.
Arabia. Couldn't even think of the term. Over there in Arabia, we have Africa. We have all the nations lined up. Now we know where the battlefield. Do you think they know where the battlefield is? Huh? Do you think they know where the battlefield is? I don't really think so. What is going to happen here? Brother John, could you go back and read what's God going to do there? Now somebody else go to Zechariah 14, 2 through 6 and 12 through 15. Now, what does he say there and what's going to happen?
I trod them in my anger and trampled them in my wrath.
Okay, but God's going to get them there, isn't he?
Yeah.
In another place it says that he's going to whisper in their ears. Go there. Go there. Go there. They're going to go there and they don't know why. They're going to go there and they don't know why. Do you think God's able to do that? Sure he is. I just think he can take an old sinner like me and he can whisper in his ear and say, you're lost. You need to be saved. And I ask the Lord to save you. Do you think he can do that to the lost humanity of the world and get them over there and even put those ideas in their minds that they think they're thinking up? They think they're going to do this? They think that they're creating this idea that they're going to go over there where all of their strategy. Strategy, our word strategy comes right out of the Greek word for soldier. Strategists, all right? They think it's their ideas, and it's not their ideas, it's God's ideas. All right, who's got the next one now? Zechariah? You got that one, Mike?
14 what?
14, 2 through 6. Zechariah 14, 2 through 6.
For I will gather all the nations against Jerusalem to battle, and the city will be captured, the houses plundered, the women ravished, and half of the city exiled, but the rest of the people will not be cut off from the city. Then the Lord will go forth and fight against those nations, as when he fights on a day of battle. And in that day his people stand on the Mount of Olives, which is in front of Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives will be split in its middle from east to west by a very large valley, so that half of the mountain will move toward the north and the other half toward the south. And you will flee by the valley of my mountains, for the valley of the mountains will reach to Azal. Yes, you will flee just as you fled before the earthquake in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah. Then the Lord my God will come, and all the holy ones with him. And it will come about in that day that there will be no light, the luminaries will dwindle.
All right, Brother Rory, are you over there in Zechariah the 14th chapter? No, you're not there. What do we see here? Now we see the creation of the battlefield. The creation of the battlefield. Now the battlefield isn't here. What's going to create the battlefield?
The Muslims overtaking Israel.
Huh? What's going to create it?
The Muslims overtaking Israel.
No. What's going to create the battlefield?
Oh, hate.
Huh? What's going to create it?
Stands on
An
the
earthquake.
Lord.
Oh.
A great big earthquake's going to turn. And where is it? What's it going to do? It's going to split the Mount of Olives. Now, let's just go back and look. When I was in Israel, of course, that was a long time ago. You know, that was over a quarter century ago. I was there in 1975 and 6. They were having trouble. They had discovered back then, with all the seismic activity and the instruments that they have now, they realized that there's an earthquake fault underneath the Mount of Olives. And they were going to build more hotels up there, and they was wondering where they should build hotels. And if they build any hotels, they had to be earthquake-proof. You know, down in Los Angeles, we know that the great big buildings down in L.A., they're what they call earthquake-proof. They have rollers that they're supposed to roll on. When the earth rolls, they roll on these rollers, basically, and keep them from shaking down. They have to have a certain amount of shake-proof ability, okay? So they were thinking about that, Brother Roy.
I found it.
Oh, you found it. Okay, hold on just a minute. All right, we find out there's going to be a gigantic earthquake. Now, this battlefield is not there yet. It tells us where it's going to be, but it hasn't been created yet. Now, 2 times in the Bible, it says, in the book of Chronicles and also in Genesis, the 10th chapter, it says, in the days of Peleg, the earth was what? Peleg. Huh? Divided. Peleg means divided. The word Pharisee means separated and divided, set apart. It says in the days of Peleg, the earth was divided. Now, scientifically and geologically, we know that at one time the world was called Gondwana or Pangea. Okay? Gondwana or Pangea. That meant, literally, that here is the sphere of the earth, but at one time the water was on one side and the earth was on the other side, okay? And then they talk about the continental drift theory, and if you get a globe, you can see where the continents came apart. And also, how many of you had your DNA done? If you have your DNA done ever, at a geographical DNA, you'll find out that your people came from these continents and you'll see the strongest is where those lands split. They went right in those areas where the lands split. You can see that. You know, isn't it a wonderful thing that the Bible knows about science? I talked this morning about, what were we talking about this morning, Brother Brett? I talked about in history past that they had to change all the calendars because the earth, at one time, there was what they call a long night and a long day. Remember when Joshua was fighting the battle? We talked about it a little bit this morning. And what does science say about that, Brother Brett?
Well, they found a piece of time that was lost,
Yeah.
and they wanted to know, what it was, and so I guess they did a lot of research on it. A lot of really, really smart people that maybe didn't even believe in God, and they came to the conclusion that
Something happened.
yeah, that something had to happen for it to be like it is today.
All right. The astronomers say that they thought that Mars got real close to Earth a couple of times and caused it to be daylight for almost 24 hours a day. When Mars got close to Earth. It doesn't matter what happened back then, but we know about the long day in the book of Joshua, don't we? How God created that long day, that's up to Him. But we know now, through astronomy and everything else, that somehow this happened. And that's when the calendars went kaput. Something happened during that period of time. And Mars and the Earth got real close. They got so close to Mars. Mars got so close to the Earth. How many moons does Mars have? 2 of them. One of them's going one way and one of them's going the other way. Did you know that? One of them's real dark. But they got so close to the Earth that people wrote down that they saw these Mars and they saw these moons on Mars, and one of them was black. Okay? And the other one, because it's so dense that it doesn't shine. But it got so close to the Earth, they said it was 50 times bigger than the moon. And at nighttime, it was daylight. All right? This really happened in history. Well, later on in history, we find out that a guy invented a telescope large enough to actually look at Mars, and he found the 2 moons that had been recorded historically. And there they were, all the time. Jonathan Swift wrote a story about it one time, about the 2 moons of Mars. He wrote the story before they ever created the telescope that could see the moons of Mars. All right? The moons of Mars. Brother David, are you over there anywhere on any of these? Zechariah, anywhere?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What would you like?
14, 12 through 15.
And this shall be the plague with which the Lord will strike all the people who fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall dissolve while they stand on their feet. Their eyes shall dissolve in their sockets, and their tongues shall dissolve in their mouths. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great panic from the Lord will be among them. Everyone will seize the hand of his neighbor and raise his hand against his neighbor's hand. Judah also will fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the surrounding nations shall be gathered together, gold, silver, and apparel in great abundance.
I'm going to tell you what, gold and silver is not going to be worth much.
And 15?
No, hold on just a minute. 15, is that, did you get to 15?
Nope, you want it?
Okay, yeah, 15.
Such also shall be the plagues on the horse and the mule, on the camel and the donkey, and on all the cattle that will be in those camps. So shall this plague be.
Okay, now Roy, you're there also, aren't you? Are you there also? Okay, 12 through 15. Now that was New American Standard, wasn't it? King James says a little bit different. You're in King James there, aren't you?
Yeah.
Can you read that for me a little bit?
Yeah, you want it 12?
Verse 12, yeah.
All right. And this shall be the
Plague.
plague with which the Lord will strike all the people who fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall dissolve while they stand on their feet.
All right, that's it. Their flesh shall dissolve while they stand on their feet. They're disintegrating while they're standing on their feet. They did not get knocked down and start dying, but they're dying before they hit the ground. Okay, that's pretty straight. They're dying before they hit the ground. What kind of a situation do you think we have here?
Radioactive.
Maybe radioactive. Back there when they wrote the book of Zechariah, do you think they had any idea about radiation and atomic bombs? Well, this could happen. How many of you saw the Raiders of the Lost Ark? That's an old movie. All right. When they opened up the Ark of the Covenant there, they stood there, and these people literally were standing there, and their flesh was dissolving while they stood there. Okay, that's the type of thing that's here. Okay, that was what we call trick photography back there, but this is really going to happen here. It's really going to happen. They're going to be dying. They're going to be dead on their feet before they hit the ground. There's one kind of thing that can do that, and that's the heat from an atomic bomb, an atomic blast. Do you think Israel might use atomic weapons if they needed to in this battle? All right. We're 14 and verse 20. Now we could go to a whole lot more. I have Genesis 49 and verse 11 here, Deuteronomy 32 and verse 14 also. Let's look at Deuteronomy 32 and verse 14, see what it says there real quick. Are you over there, Brother David?
32 what?
32:14, Deuteronomy. What does Deuteronomy mean? It comes from deutros nomos in Greek, doesn't it? The second law. All right, the second law, Brother David.
Herds from the cattle and milks of the flock, with fat of lambs and rams of the breed of Bashan, goats with the choicest wheat, and you drink wine, the blood of the grapes.
All right, wine, the blood of the grape. Wine, the blood of the grape. Now we talk about figurative that this is like a man that stomps out. How many of you ever seen anybody stomp grapes? My grandfather was Amadeo Lamucci. And one time I remember he was the one that, this is a little, I'll just go off on here for just a moment. His brother, how many of you have eaten at Luigi's? Down there on 19th Street? That was his brother. That was Joseph, okay? And Louis was over there at the Universal Hotel. And he was a chef over at the Universal Hotel, and his brother was over here 1 block away with Luigi's. I can't remember what it was called then. I don't want it Lamucci's or whatever it was. But anyway, Louis was cooking for the lawyers and the judges over there at the Universal Hotel, and the common farmers were going over there at Luigi's. When they finally shut down the old Universal Hotel, which was next door to where Pyrenees Bakery is today. Okay, it was right next door. That was the finest restaurant in Bakersfield at that time. The finest restaurant. And he was cooking there, and I remember one time that he went out and got a whole bunch of grapes, and they was going to make wine. And he got great big tubs out there, and he put all these grapes in there, and he pulled off his shoes and cleaned his feet up real good and got in there and was stomping, and there was grape juice all over his legs and clothes. Stained. All over. I mean, his legs and feet were stained for days after that. I mean, maybe a week or two, I don't remember. That figuratively is what it's going to be like. When you, this is going to be a slaughter field, this battlefield is. There are going to be people, the people that are in this battlefield are going to have blood all over them. There's going to be a lot of hand-to-hand combat. There's going to be a lot of weaponry of all sorts. They're going to smell smoke like gunfire. And how many of you saw the Memorial Day thing in I think it's France? Did you see that where they were shooting all those cannons off the 21 gun salute yesterday? They shot those 21 guns. There was a lot of smoke going on there. They were putting all this powder and shooting those cannons off for all these people that died over there on D-Day. All right? D-Day. Over so many years ago, 65 years ago, I think it was, yesterday, D-Day. A lot of that smoke. I thought, looked at that smoke, and that's what the battlefield is going to be like. All of that smoke from the battlefield. Just think about it in World War II. We talk about pollution today. Pollution. Boy, look what happened in World War II. All of the bombs. All of the ships that were sunk in the ocean with all the oil spills out there in the ocean. That antique one there I have to turn over by hand. It worked real good. Sometimes that's the only recording I get. All the rest of them fail. Well, out here in this battlefield is quite a mess. It's a bloody mess. God prophesied this how long ago? Over 2,000 years ago. It was prophesied. In the book of Genesis. In the book of Genesis, Genesis 3:15. Let's go back in Genesis 3:15 and let's look at that. Brother Randall, can you go to 3:15 for me? And explain that just a little bit.
I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise you on the head. He shall bruise you on the head. You shall bruise him on the heel.
As to the heel. All right. Now this is a prophecy right here. This is talking about the end times also. In the period, it's going through all the way through history. Here we have God, we have Jehovah talking. Okay? Jehovah. The Jews will call him Adonai. All right? They won't say that word Jehovah, because we don't know how to say it anyway. Neither do they. This is Jehovah talking, and he's talking directly to the serpent there, the Nahash. Okay? He's talking to the serpent, and to the woman, and to the man. They're listening, but he's talking directly to the serpent. Now, who is the seed of the serpent? Who is the seed of the serpent?
Antichrist.
The Antichrist. Who's the seed of the woman? The Christ. The real Messiah. He's the seed of the woman. Now, the real Messiah came into being here. He promised all the way back in the book of Genesis, but he came into being in space and time when Mary brought Jesus into this world. Okay? And he's the Son of God. It says in John, the first chapter, that he is the only begotten God. Okay? God begat himself. All right? God, it says, John 1:18, that he declared him. The word in Greek is ekanago. It means that he led himself out, middle voice. He led himself out of eternity into space and time in a person that he really lived. Okay? But that person that really lived, that body of Jesus also died on the cross of Calvary, didn't he? So he tasted death, but he didn't stay dead, did he? He didn't stay dead. All right? But the serpent now, when the Lord throws him into the lake of fire, way over here in this lake of fire, you see over here on this chart, he's going to be there, and that's what we call the second death, and that's eternal death. Okay? Eternal death. The word death is sonatos. It means separation. It's not talking about necros. That means dead body. But he's going to be totally separated from God and you and me. Isn't that nice? We have to put up with the scoundrel today. All right? We won't have to put him up with him at all. The seismologist is what I wrote a long time ago here in this little commentary in Linear. Seismologists have discovered a fault running from Africa all the way up the Jordan Rift, and the trigger of this earthquake zone is the Mount of Olives. Okay? Now that was, I wrote that, when did I do this book? In the front of it, I don't have that page that you got in yours. Where's it say when I did that doctor's thesis?
1981.
1981. All right? They had figured that out in 1981, but you know what? The Lord already had it down 2,000 plus years ago. He knew where it was. Now, we discovered it now, but He had it figured out a long, long time ago. 14 and verse 15, that is. 15. Chapter 15 of the book of Revelation. All right? 15 in the book of Revelation. I don't know whether I'm going to, when I finish this book, whichever one I get finished first, they want me to teach the book of Genesis on Wednesday night. But if I get it done, I may teach it on Sunday night. I don't know which one I'm going to do. We're going to teach it from Hebrew. That's going to be an interesting thing. 15th chapter and verse 1. Brother Bill, are you over there yet?
Back in Revelation.
Yeah, 15 and verse 1. And New American Standard, I think you have.
And I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels who had 7 plagues, which are in the last, because in them the wrath of God is finished.
All right. It said, and I saw, again we have the word horao there, I saw. First person singular, second aorist, indicative active. I saw with my eyes. John is talking about something that he saw. He saw this. God let him be a time traveler. We talk about Back to the Future and all this kind of stuff in time, but John saw this with his eyes. He saw it. Wherever he was in that cave in Patmos, all right? And I saw another sign, Samion, all right, in the heaven, great, and Damaston, all right, and wonderful. Angels 7 having plagues, plagos. We got a word plagues right from that Greek word there, plagos. 7, and then it talks about eschatos, eschatos. We talk about eschatology. Brother John, what in the world does eschatology mean? You know that, don't you?
The last thing.
The last things, study of last things. This is what it's talking about, the eschatology, the last time. All right? This earth is going to change right here. This battle of Armageddon that takes place during this period of time is going to change the whole earth. Because the earth, I drew this up here a while ago. Do you see these marks? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many of you have mathematics? All right? You know what 6 is, don't you? All right. Now, how many... Now, these are Gentiles that we're talking about here. The Gentiles. That's the nations. The Gentiles are everybody but Jews, and not Jews. How many, what part of the Gentile nations are going to be destroyed at this period of time? 5 out of every 6 is going to be X'd out, okay? And then the Jews. We're going to divide the Jews. We got 6 here, all right? And then we've got Jews. They're going to be 2 out of every 3 Jews are going to be killed, okay? Now, when we're kind of jumping ahead just a little bit, but we're going to go into the millennial reign of Jesus Christ, okay, with 1/6 of the human race that are Gentiles, 1/6, all right, and 1/3 of the Jews. Now they are going to be in their physical bodies. 5/6 of the world is going to be destroyed, and 2/3 of the Jews. But these people, this 1/6 and 1/3 of the Jews, are going to go into the millennial reign of Jesus Christ in their bodies on this earth. The whole animal kingdom is going to be changed. It's going to be back like it was in the Garden of Eden. And in the Garden of Eden, it was whole different. Why did God create animals?
Companion.
For companionship. They were not, they weren't your food, people, believe it or not. They weren't food at that time. Back then, they were companions. Companions of mankind. After the flood, they became food. And after the flood, the fear of each other and the fear of man was put in them. Okay? The fear of man and the fear of each other was put in. That's when they became predators. All right? Now, over here, in the millennial kingdom, they're not going to be predators there. The snakes are going to be pets again. Nahash is going to be a pet again. He's not going to have any venom in his fangs like they do today. All of these animals that you see running around on the earth killing each other. We won't have that problem during that period of time. It's going to be like a virtual Garden of Eden again. A virtual Garden of Eden. Everything's going to change. Now let's look and see what's going to... That's not what we got to look forward to. Of course, we're going to be looking down on this. That's what I believe. Looking down on it, on the earth. A lot of the Jehovah Witnesses say they want to go... They're not looking for heaven. They're looking for the kingdom. They can have that kingdom, people. To get to that kingdom, what do you got to do? You got to go through all of this business with the plagues and everything else. I don't want to have anything to do with that. All right? That's over the millennial kingdom, Ezekiel 36:25 through 38, okay? Now let's get over here in the 15th chapter of the book of Revelation. Are you over there, Roy?
Yes.
Oh, 15 and verse 1 now.
Then I saw another sign in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues, for in them the wrath of God is complete.
All right, now there we go and read it again. Revelation 15 and verse 1. The 7 angels having the 7 plagues. Now the 7 plagues are going to be taking place on this earth. All right, they're going to take place on this earth. This is what's going to take place before the millennium. All right, 15 and verse 2. And I think we're going to quit right about there because some of you got to go over there to the other part, don't you? Okay. 15 and verse 2. Kathy, we haven't heard from you tonight. Have you got that new Bible buffed out? Have you got it saddled up and just about ready where you can ride that thing and find everything? All right.
And I saw, as it were, a sea of glass mixed with fire, and those who had become all victorious from the beast, and from his image, and from the number of his name, standing on the sea of glass, holding harps of God.
All right, now let's look at this just a little bit. We talk about the crystal sea here, the crystal sea. And behold, here we have the word I saw, a sea, a thalasson, a sea, of a sea glassy, all right, having been mixed with fire. Now what in the world is it talking about? Here is the throne room of God, and the throne room of God, he says, is like a sea of glass with fire in it.
You can see what's going on.
Mm-hmm. What is it? What is it?
Amber.
What is it?
Colored amber.
Well, it's got some amber. How many of you ever have seen real good diamonds? Real good diamonds. Good diamonds. What's what they call the clear diamond? Marilyn's got a couple of them. She inherited from your aunt, wasn't it? Yeah. And those things, I took them in to have them evaluated one time. And they said, "Whoa, these are real good. These are what they call perfect diamonds, and they reflect fire and everything around them. You see all kinds of colors in those diamonds. You know what the throne room of God is? What it's got for a foundation? Diamond. The finest, clearest, perfect diamond floor. The pavement, that the foundation that the throne of God is setting upon is a diamond. A diamond that shows all of the power and the creative power and the attributes of God reflecting. Over here in the tabernacle that we studied here about, when the Shekinah glory of God, the presence of God, came upon that tabernacle, what did it look like at nighttime? Fire. A pillar of fire. In the daytime, it looked like what? A cloud, a smoke, a smoky cloud. Okay? That's what it looked like in daytime. We have a cloud and we have fire. So what do you think that throne room, that crystal pavement, that diamond throne, what is it reflecting? The very person of God and his attributes of creating power. Okay? Of his creative power. Where did everything come from? Everything we see in the whole universe? It came from God. God created it all. He spoke it into existence. It came from his hands, so to speak. All right? Having been mixed with fire, and the ones overcoming, the ones conquering from the swift beast, the Therion. Remember what I called that Therion? What was that Therion? This beast in the book of Revelation. He is a swift-running, killing machine like a land shark. He's like a great white shark on land. Was it last year, Dakota, that we went out in the ocean and I caught a great white shark? I was out there, we were fishing, and Dakota first of all hooked one. We were in a pod of great whites, or a family of great whites. We didn't know it. Dakota hooked one of them, and her pole went over double, and she said, "Dad!" That's that pole, the pole's this big, and it was just bent over double like this, and the line was just whistling through the water. And she said, "Dad!" About that time, it made 2 or 3 big long passes, and all of a sudden the line went ding, and she pulled it up, and it was just shredded. And then before long, I caught one. It was not as big as hers, I guess, because I was fighting this thing that was going all over the place, and we got it up there. And I said, "Dakota, get the net. This is big." I thought I had a lingcod. I said, "Get the net, Dakota." So Dakota ran over there, and what did Dakota say when she saw it, Dakota? "Ah!" That mouth was up there like this. It's like that. Well, I didn't want to bring that thing in the boat. I didn't want to fight that thing. That was a Therion. A killing machine. Eating machine. That's what this beast is, a killing machine, a land shark. We pulled that great white up, and she didn't want to have anything to do. I said, "No, not get it, don't bring it in here." Well, first thing, you can catch a great white, but you can't eat it because they're protected. All right? But it was there. We saw it. All right. The one overcoming the swift beast, and out of the idol of him. Remember when he puts up an idol and he makes the idol talk? And everybody falls down and worships him. And it says, and out of the number of him, the arithmetic of the name of him, having stood upon the sea, the glassy one having harps from God. All right? 15 verse 3 is where we're going to start next week. Do you have any questions? Hope you enjoyed this study tonight. You requested that I go back over it in Greek every time we read it. Do you still like that, or you want me to stop? You still like that? Okay. All right. We get to learn some real neat words that explain some of the things, some of the translations. You'd be surprised what the Bible has to, how much light the original language sheds on all the translations sometimes. All right. Have any questions? Shirley, you don't have a question tonight? No questions?
No.
All right.
Well,
Brother Bill, I'm glad to have you here with us tonight. Marilyn.
I have a question.
Yes.
When the angels have their sickles and they're coming down to earth and slaughtering, the good people must be huddled together somewhere else. And
Well, where's Israel during this time? Where is the elect Israel? They're down at Petra, hid out by God. Now, a lot of them's going to be dying up there in different places. But the sickle, now, it says that God is going to do this and everything else. You know what God is actually doing to this earth? He's turning man loose on man. What does 666 mean? Man. Man is destroying man on this earth. He's turning.
Antichrist.
What?
Is the last six is
666.
is Antichrist,
Man. It's the triuneness of the evilness of man is what it is. Man is going to be turned loose on mankind, and the devil is going to be right there with him. The most carnal, terrible nature of man is going to be turned loose on other mankind. We're going to see that there. Now, we're in the most exciting part of the book of Revelation, the most bloodiest part and the most scariest part. in the book of Revelation. All right, that's where we are right now. So let's go, you can read ahead and come back and we'll look at it and we'll study this together. Any other questions? Brother Rex?
You know, I wanted to ask you this morning. What would the devil want with the body of Moses?
What did the devil do with the Catholic Church?
He's a prize of Christ.
He made a religion that people will worship the religion and artifacts and idols instead of God. And any way he confused man like that, that's what he did. I believe that he wanted the body of Moses to let them worship it instead of God. Because they so, you know, the Jews look upon Moses and the name of Moses as if they used Moses' name in vain, they were to be stoned. If they used God's name in vain, they were to be stoned. Moses was, they had a veneration of him just like he was God. Marilyn.
Yeah.
See.
See what?
Nay. You had a question.
I asked
No,
you.
I mean just after that I thought you had one.
No.
Oh, okay.
Think of another one.
Anybody else got a question? All right. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, you said they went to Petra.
Okay, that's where, remember, we have the battlefield laid out. The battlefield's going to be created, okay? And that's how long it's going to be. And in places in that battlefield, blood's going to run 4 feet deep. And there's going to be people in that battlefield who are going to be standing on their feet and dying before they hit the ground.
So that's 200 miles each way?
200 miles.
Square?
200 miles long.
It's long,
Long. Not
no
wide,
width.
just 200 miles
They
long.
don't know the width?
Well, we'll look at that a little bit more. I don't know whether does it say the width of it, John, anywhere? I don't remember.
Could be around the world. 200
Well,
miles.
no, it's from Edom to Bozrah. That's how long the battlefield. That's where the battlefield is. And when the Mount of Olives splits, it's going to make that big valley right there. We talk about the Battle of Armageddon. We talk about the valley of Jezreel and all this also. Okay. Anything else? Before I turn you loose on the world, go out and do something eternal this week now. Something that you can take with you when you leave the world. All right. Brother Bill, would you like to dismiss us in prayer tonight, brother?
Sure. Lord, thank you for time to be in your word and that your spirit may have an opportunity to apply it to our deepest hearts, that we might be changed and we might be more transparent, that you might shine through us even more so. Somehow that glassy diamond reflection of your glory might come through us. Thank you for this evening and these believers. Thank you for our fellowship around your word. In Jesus'